Hey, what's up? Ryuji here. Thank you so much for stopping by this morning. You can see a beautiful little sunrise behind me today. And what I want to talk about is this idea of what's important versus what's urgent in life. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring you down with this video, but I'm going to talk about some pretty sad stuff, or things that are really sad to me at least. So bear with me. So I recently got the news that one of my good friends, one of my really close friends in Japan, passed away. And he passed away. He was hiking somewhere and he just slipped and fell. And I don't know the details of that, but he ended up losing his life to that. And yeah, that was really sad. But what that made me realize, or rather re-realize, is we should really pay more attention to what's important in life, so to speak. And for me, part of what's so important is human connection, or just like connection with other beings in general. And because now that my friend's gone, and we went on crazy adventures together, and we had so many plans for like more crazy adventures we'd go on together. But regardless of that, what's so important now and what remains is all the memories I've made with him, and all the times we spent together, and this bond that we built together. And that is something so valuable. And it really makes me think, whenever I'm with people now, I want to make sure that I spend that time with that person. A lot of times nowadays, we just hang out. We're like waiting for food in a restaurant. What do? Just like pull out our phones, text people, that kind of stuff. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that necessarily, but why not just really spend time with each other and be present with each other in that moment? The last time I saw my friend was August 8th of last year, 2016. And, at the time when we said bye for the last time, it was a really dramatic bye, actually. I was going to leave Japan a couple days later. It was the last time we had dinner together with him and a bunch of friends. And we parted at the train station because they all took the train there, and I actually biked to where we had dinner together. And so I was there. They were going to enter the station. And I just said bye to them. And I just remember we said bye like 10 times because I didn't know if I was supposed to leave first, they were supposed to leave first. It was kind of like an awkward thing, but it's like a fun little thing, But we had a nice bye. And the thing is that at the time between me and my friend, I could have never imagined that that would be the last time that I get to say bye to him. And you just never know these things. And he made me think, you really never know these things. So anytime you spend time with someone and you part with them, you never know what's going to happen after. So I really think you should treasure that time we have, with the people, especially those who are important to us and the people who are really dear to our hearts. I think we should really make an effort to, be with them when we're with them. So that's the first thing. Now the second thing is, about how, I want to live, so to speak. Now this other story, before I started college, before orientation, my school organized this camping trip. We went in Yosemite, we camped there, we went hiking, that kind of stuff. It was amazing. And one of our leaders was this guy from the UCLA Outdoors Club or something like that. And this guy was amazing, just absolutely amazing. He has such a strong personality. He was such a fun guy. And, he led us through a whole trip. He was such a great leader, taught us so many things. And I remember on the last 2 nights that, we were camping, he stayed up really late both those nights to do different things. So the first night he stayed up and did his economics homework. And, because he had homework due when we were back in school, basically. And the next night, he stayed up all night reading this book called The Four Agreements, which I highly recommend, by the way. It's an amazing book. And he just stayed up all night reading it. And I remember the day after, he told us about this book, and he was telling us about how awesome it is and how like it changed his life, and how it was just a great book overall. And so I was really intrigued by that at the time. And so on the way home, I asked if I could borrow his copy of the book and if I could read it. And he said, yeah, sure. It was on his iPad, but And so I read the book on the way home, and that book changed my life. It was one of those books that, I could feel it change me as I was flipping through the pages. It was really phenomenal. The Four Agreements, check it out. But yeah, and then later we stopped for like food and we talked about it. And, that was such a great experience. And that's a book that is still dear to me today, and I still have it in my library. But anyways, a couple months later, I think it was, or a few months later, we all suddenly got the news that this guy had passed away, and he had a fire in his house. And when that happened, it was crazy because it was so out of the blue. But anyways, the point I want to make is that I realized that it's so funny because I remember the thing about how he did his economics homework. Then he read that book. And this is just an example, but I realized that the economics homework was something he did, in a sense, it was kind of purely for him. And so now that he had passed away, the economics homework had no meaning anymore. Like, it didn't matter whether or not he did that night. All that happened from that is basically, well, he did his homework, but then the next day he actually slept in, and like there was time that he didn't spend with us. Or I think like the next morning he was doing like economics homework, so he didn't spend part of the day with us because of that. And in the end, now it just really just didn't matter anymore. But on the flip side, when I look at what he did with the Four Agreements and how he read the Four Agreements and told us about it and shared that, with us, and I took that and I read that book, that is so valuable because that continues to impact me today. And that book is still a book that's really important to me today, and I recommend it to people. And so, by doing that, something that's outward and not just inward, he was able to do something that was so meaningful that, it's still, his actions still has an effect on, on me, but just, in this case, like on me, and it still has the effect today. And that doesn't just apply to the book, but just the person he was and how he inspired me at the time, and all the things that he taught me and all the other people in the group. He taught us so many things. And not only that, the good times we had together, the times that we all laughed together, and not just us, but all his friends, like the good times he spent with them, and how he made them laugh, and like how he made them happy, like good times, all this kind of stuff. Those are all things that that live on as feelings and memories and lessons, and that is something that is so valuable. So for me now, when I think about what's important to me is, like I said, the first thing, like when I spend time with someone, I really want to spend time with that person, and I try really hard to do that. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is prioritizing things that are outward and not just inward. And of course it's important to take care of yourself, but at the end of the day, especially when it's things like your homework, you should remember that even though that might have an impact on your life down the line, that in a sense, looking at it, it's just a way of looking at it, but looking at it this way is less important than what you might be able to do outward. And spending good time, like having a good time with people, or sharing your experience, and like someone might learn something that's really valuable to them, sharing things you've learned, or just like even like laughing together. To me, those are things that are so valuable, and so that's why I always want to prioritize these things. Like even I'll always like try to hang out with people. If I want to spend time with someone who's important to me, I'll want to do that, and I'll prioritize that over things like my homework. For this reason specifically, because I've had these experiences, and I really think, that's so much more important. I mean, literally, I think, what if I were to die tomorrow? Would I rather have spent time with this person, or would I rather have done my homework? In a lot of cases, I just want to have spent time with that person. Now, I don't want to set off this whole thing where like people don't do their homework and stuff anymore, but I'm just making a point. Overall, I just really think it's important to keep in mind what's important, and pit that versus what's, I guess you could call it urgent. Things like homework, that seems urgent because it's due tomorrow, but is it important in the same way that spending time with a good friend is important? Because in life we just get caught in this rat race of like, we're just like doing all these things that are urgent, doing all these things that I have to do this today. Oh my God, I have so many things to do. I have to run around here. I have to do this. I have to do my homework, like all this stuff. But at the end of the day, is that stuff really important? Should you really prioritize that over the things that you deem are important? Because that's really what it's about at the end of the day. But I urge you to think about that. What's important to you and what's just urgent? And then would you rather spend your time prioritizing the things that are urgent or prioritizing the things that are important? Anyways, thank you guys so much for checking this out. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Again, thank you. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.